In the previous tutorial, we looked at the ERG, the Emergency Response Guide, that we can use inside CBRN-Analysis if we're dealing with toxic industrial chemical or maybe a toxic industrial material. Like already indicated, there are some other materials inside the Emergency Response Guidebook, biological and radiological. But for this tutorial, we're going to look at a limitation of the Emergency Response Guidebook. If we come across an incident where we have no information. So on the previous tutorial using the ERG, we did briefly talk about this, but we'll just go in this in a little bit more detail. So as we know, when we're using the Emergency Response Guidebook, there are two locations where we can gain access to that particular database, the ERG database that is inside CBRN-Analysis. We can go to Documentation, we can click on to Industrial, and then the ERG database will come up. So basically, all the materials that are inside the ERG are indicated in the index, and then we have the guide and we have the distances associated with each one of the materials. If there is any distances, there may only be public safety distances. It depends on the material. So we know we can gain access from there, or we can just click on to the shortcut icon that looks like a drum that's next to the world icon. Just click onto there, and then again that will open up the ERG. And we know that we can use the ERG for looking at it, for reference information, if we want to select a substance and then go to distances to have a look if there was a spill from that particular substance, or if we wish, we can go onto the PDF of the book itself and then look within that book and then search that book, which is in PDF format, for any information we want to gain or take out of that particular book. So what we're going to do here then is we're going to create a small scenario or incident, and we're going to place that on the map, and then I'm going to show you the limitation when using the ERG. So first of all, we have received an information report from another unit. So if I bring up that report just to show you, that unit then has found some drums of an unidentified substance. They've given a grid. There are no markings, no hazard symbols on the drums. Each drum contains about 200 litres of liquid, and what we're going to do is mark that off, mark it onto the map, and then indicate that. So if we go cancel, go yes, we will save that. So I've already, to save time, transferred the information that was in that information report and then placed it into a risk object, which is already displayed onto the map. So this is where the 6 drums have been found, next to this building. So what we would do is we make a risk object for this, because at the moment they're intact, they're not leaking, but we want to place them on there just in case something does happen, and then we have the ability to produce the template. So if I open up the risk object, we've already dealt with risk objects in a previous tutorial. If I open up this risk object report, you can see we've got the information in here. So we've got the 6 drums found by this unit at this time at this grid, and we've got an outline placed around the particular location, which is this black line going all the way around here. We've also got a hazard range that we've placed out at 800 meters. We're not using the safety exclusion zones that are part of the ATP 3.8.1 volume 1. We're just placing our own hazard range measurements onto the map. And then we have the incident scenario itself, and we've named that suspect drums, we've placed in the relevant information that we want to place in. We can see the drums, we know there are 6 of them. They are generic storage containers as far as we're concerned, and if all of them were to release, we could possibly have a release of 1,200 kilograms, and that will go onto the surface. Now, this is the point where normally if we're using the ERG, we would go in and attempt to identify by either selecting the ID number or the name of the material. In this case, as in a lot of cases that we may find if we're dealing with this type of incident in real, or for real in a real scenario, then those containers, drums, whatever they may be, may not have any markings on them that can significantly tell us what they are. They're just suspect drums with some material in them. Could be hazardous, couldn't be hazardous, but we don't want to take a chance. So in that case, we need to click on to the first field here where it says release, and as part of version 20 we have renamed, as you're fully aware already when we talk about risk objects, we've renamed all these sets to correspond more with a civilian type information that you could receive. So we've got delivery, we've got release, and we've got the status. So instead of going into the ERG, because we don't know what type of material we're dealing with, we then need to select on the pick list here, and the only one that we should go for, as it's already indicated here, is toxic industrial chemical. So that's the one that we need to select if we don't know what type of hazardous material possibly could be within these drums. So we must select tick, and then we can go OK. So if I now go onto the risk object icon again, click onto it to open up the report, now select what if. It will now go into the what if window. If I now go to calculation and then calculate, and then click on to hazard distance, you'll see it has defaulted to the standard default template that is indicated in the ATP 45 Foxtrot for an unknown toxic industrial chemical, which is a 1 kilometer radius by a 3 kilometer or 3,000 meter downwind hazard. So if I go OK and then I come out, you'll now see the template. So there we have the default template. Again, if it's difficult to see, please remember that we can always dim the map back, and if we want, we can also increase the outline of the template and the various elements of it if we want. We can make that thin. Doesn't have to be medium. We could close that just to make it stand out a little bit more. So that is the default template that we would have if we were to either, as in this case we're just dealing with a risk object, but if there was a real release from some containers that our personnel or units had found, then this is the type of template we would initially have to place down until we can identify what substance would be leaking or coming out of the containers or wherever the vessel is, wherever this hazardous material is situated in. So please remember, you do need to make sure that you select toxic industrial chemical in the pick list. If you don't know what type of potential hazardous material you could be dealing with, because you can't use the ERG because there is no default template within there if you can't identify the material. So there you go, just one or the limitation with the ERG.